What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Jared of Bayless. Thank you so much for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. So, the new single that you have, Searchlights, is absolutely epic. Easily one of my personal favorite tracks to come out in 2022.
Oh, man,
Is this
thank you.
maybe a good representation of what, like, the next full-length Bayless album or EP is going to sound like, or is this just one little taste or one kind of one-off thing?
Yeah, good question. I'd say it's very similar. It's actually a kind of a concept thing that we probably will call the EP Searchlights, but it's this whole theme. We got another song that's kind of a sister song to this one. So you got people above the water, that's Searchlights, and then there's a song about the people in the water. So that one is yet to be released, but we're working on it, and so it's kind of a taste of what's to come.
Oh hell yeah! Is this? I love it when there's sort of like a concept or a story. Did you and the band sort of like think of this concept before you started putting pen to paper with writing the music, or did this concept kind of come through fruition as you were like playing around with more music and had more songs structured?
Yeah, good question. Actually, it was a concept I'd had for a while, and I just kept saying, I don't know, I just see it like we see music. So I was like, when you watch the music video for this for Searchlights, it's like that was what was in my head, was like, this is what I want, and this is how I see it. So it was kind of like this. I don't know. It was like I want to see somebody from like under the water. Like, what are they dealing with when somebody's drowning? Like, what's their story? What about the people who are going to rescue them? What's their story? What challenges did they get to getting to the people? So there's another story about that, about the challenges of the people above the water getting to the people who are drowning. So, and what adversities they face. So, yeah.
So, is this like almost kind of like a metaphor of like a personal experience that you or other members have had, or is this kind of like its own sort of external story in a way?
It's a good question. It's not anything necessarily personal. I mean, I guess you could, but it's mostly like, man, you look at our world, and you look at people who are just so like broken, and we can all agree with that. And it was like, why aren't we asking the extra question instead of making the assumptions? Like somebody's like drowning, and like, who knows the guy who has just lost his mind, but like, what if he just lost his wife? Like that changes your view and perception of them, doesn't it? And so it's like, what are we doing instead of just saying, hey, where there's mental health problems out there, somebody will fix it? And it's like, what are we doing about it to just be kind and offer hope to people? And like, you don't say, hey, tell me why you're drowning before I pull you out of here. You're like, you just pull them out. You don't ask, you just do it. And then you say, what's going on? So I think we do really poorly in society about just like communicating well with each other, and myself included. I'm not perfect at that, but just I think that's where Searchlights came from, is just like, send out a searchlight in the darkness. Who knows who you're going to find out there?
Yeah, and because it seems like hope and kind of like trying to triumph over darkness in a very meager and melancholy world almost seems to kind of be like the theme of Bayless. Like when I listened to the Ready Aim EP, it kind of had that sort of similar vibe behind it. Is that just sort of like a concept that you've always wanted to express when even forming Bayless?
Yeah, uh, yeah, it's kind of who we are. I don't know. Like Ready Aim was kind of this like, let's go after the monster, let's like charge the hill. And then Searchlights kind of became like, maybe it's a little more rescue mission, maybe it's a little more like special ops instead of, big groups of people going for this fight. Because sometimes that's not it. Like sometimes it's just the day to day that is the fight and the grind, and we just want to be seen. So I think it kind of came from like, it's cool. We went this like, let's all as a group do it, but like, let's fight against the darkness, because I think we can all agree what evil is. The problem is we don't always agree what light is. It's kind of interesting.
Definitely, definitely, and I feel like we don't always agree what light is, and as a result, we all have our subjective opinions of what evil could be as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Being that, like, I always think that the sound of Bayless, whether it's the Within My Reach album to now, the sound of Bayless is always the combination of both you and Vanessa's vocal efforts as well, working together. Do both of you kind of need to be in sort of the same mindset or the same frame of mind when it comes to either writing the lyrics, tracking the vocals, or even performing together in order to kind of like make the song like cohesive in a way? Or does it not really matter? Because I think you both have like your own distinct vocal styles in a way.
Hmm. That's a good question. We both have to eventually get there. I'm usually like down just like working on something, and then I'll show Vanessa it, and she's got to be like, I see where you're going with this. I like it. Or she'll say, you knew I would like this. That's a common phrase. But then there's sometimes she's just not clicking, or she'll just be like, I just hear this, or I see this, or I just have this concept. And then I'm trying to put music to that. And sometimes I've got this, like when we did Sojourner, like I had that all done before any lyrics ever came to it. And she's just like, I love it. I absolutely see a music video out of this. So for months, she's just like, I see it. And so I just had to put words to it. So yeah, we kind of like when we lock in, it's really good. And then there's times where it's just maybe it's my idea, not as much hers, and then vice versa. So
Did you always needed the music before you actually wrote the lyrics itself? Because you mentioned like the concept and the story, but when it comes to writing the exact lyrics that we hear, do you always prefer to have like the whole arrangement written, or do you sometimes have like the whole all the lyrics written and the band writes according to that?
man, that's I get asked the question a lot, but it's probably I probably have the music done before, and then I fit what I'm feeling about it to it, because you got structures and syllables you got to fit into that. But sometimes I'll write something and then just be like, someday I'm gonna figure out how to make this. Like our song "The Raven" was probably was just like they both kind of came at the same time. It was just visually seeing this story unfolding and just trying to figure out what music should say that, I guess. So that was kind of fun, but it really depends. It's sometimes got to be the mood has got to get me to the lyrics, or sometimes I got this concept and I got to get the music to fit those lyrics.
Have you ever had like the best lyrics ever, but then they can never be in any song because they're always like one syllable over everything?
I've had some people say, I feel like you wrote this and tried to jam it into this music. And I was like, that's true. It was on my phone and I'm just trying so hard I had to give up on it. So yeah, I've had those. I probably have them on my phone somewhere.
Fair enough. Future B-side maybe.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, I'll get back into Searchlights in a minute, but this is also, I think, a very important year for Bayless because this is the 10-year anniversary of Within My Reach. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the debut. Is that the first time we've ever heard Bayless, at least?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
there's some other stuff I hide away, but yes.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first time you heard Bayless, but
there's some other stuff out there, but I don't recommend it. So, yes.
Yeah. Maybe. But Within My Reach, I mean, this is a phenomenal album. When I first heard Searchlights, I just went down a rabbit hole and had to listen to the whole catalog. And I'm just curious to because it almost seemed like you had like the sound and the idea, like there's no way that anybody who loves Searchlights, they can also definitely love Within My Reach. I think that there's definitely a connection with it. But how different of a mindset was it for Within My Reach as opposed to now being the debut?
Oh, man, back then with Within My Reach, I wasn't thinking of radio. I mean, I was, but like our songs are so long, but I was like, that's just what I want it to be. And then when you get into like radio, you got to be succinct, you got to be catchy, it's got to be. So I think Searchlights has probably was able to like condense that and then kind of make it a little Within My Reach thing. But like Within My Reach is, I don't know. I love that. That was like a long time of just writing and just I don't know. I can still listen to that album and remember exactly where I was and remember exactly how I felt, remember like the aha moments. And yeah, so it's kind of been that sound, and I've loved that sound, but it's just been years of trying to get that to become so you can get it out there and people will pick it up and fits their format and all kinds of stuff.
Wait, did you I could have sworn, did you say that you thought that the songs on that were too long? Have you ever listened to an Opeth, the song? Like,
well, for radio they're too long. They're not that long, but it was always like, it's a 5-minute song, it's too long, it's got to be like 350. And I'm like, 350? How am I going to get this into 350? So yeah.
The most ironic thing about it is that radio always wants you to have like the shorter songs, and the bands with the shorter songs are always hardcore bands that are never even radio friendly to begin with. So
yeah, you're right.
Yep,
you're right.
But Within My Reach, when you go from Venom and end with Lay Me Down, I mean, for a debut album, there's a lot of songs on here, 13 of them. I mean, it seemed like it was a very prolific time. Was the inspiration just flowing back then?
Yeah, I didn't have a kid. That also helped.
Okay.
I have to be a lot more like strategic about my time now. I don't have time to just sit in the basement forever. So yeah, it was man, I don't know. I think Venom was just about like I don't know, talking about people of like what's the venom of somebody's choice, and um we kind of all struggle with that. Like it doesn't have to be, like alcohol or whatever it may be. It could be anger. It could be all kinds of things that are tripping us up that are our venom. So I think it started with that of just like, let's talk about some real things and let's just offer some hope inside of darkness, and but not shy away from the darkness because we all can agree that there is darkness. So yeah, back then I don't know, I wasn't in a depressive state or anything. I think I was just feeling inspired, I guess.
Well, being that confronting darkness is the theme of Bayless, and I've and it's been a theme for a lot of bands, and I've always wondered this too, because obviously creating art about demons and darkness, it's very cathartic and it's a release, but I'd imagine it's also very stressful because you almost kind of have to like confront your demons face to face. So does that at all make the songwriting process maybe a little deteriorating as much as it is cathartic?
Yeah, I would say so. Like Ready Aim, I wrote it the day after knee surgery. So I was probably hopped up on some drugs of some sort that were helping me through my pain, and I was had my leg up and I was in my basement because I couldn't go anywhere. Um so that was, talking about running towards the monster. It was kind of the like, man, I'm in for a long haul. And so I'm sitting here and you can let your mind go for too long. And so that kind of where it became of like, man, well, too long you've been controlling my mind. Like I think we've all been there. Like I've been in here too much. And so yeah, it can get to you, or you're talking about some dark things, like you can let some darkness in. So that's not always good either. You got to be real careful. Um, but yeah, it can deteriorate it a little bit, but it also is like, man, there's always new kinds of darkness, and just got to take note and then maybe write about it later
Yep.
because I'm not the only one who's experienced it.
Does inspiration also sometimes strike at like the most inconvenient times of what to write about as well?
Um, yeah, sometimes, and sometimes it's the opposite. You're like, I need inspiration right now, and I got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then sometimes you're just, I don't know, you're in the supermarket or something, and then like, I need to write this down. Like, I don't even know where this came from. Yeah, or just a life concept of like, I'd really like to talk about this, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say or how I'm supposed to say it. But it's not always inconvenient, but it never feels like it's when I need it. But yeah.
Do you almost have like a usual place that you have to go to in order to cultivate ideas in a way,
Mm.
or like do you have to sometimes like go out? You kind of in a way just answer this, but do you have to like deliberately go out and research it? I mean, I've never been to Wyoming, but it looks like a very very beautiful state with a lot of nature, so I'd imagine that that has to help a little bit, right?
It does. We live near mountains the hour north and south of us. So like there's a couple of places we love, and that does help. I mean, honestly, just exercise in general. I'd probably say I love biking. So like we have still like a thing in our city here that I can just go bike, and I just put in some like podcasts or music, and I just shut the world out and exercise. So it kind of like frees my brain of having to try to write. I don't want to ever have to write. I want to just like, I can't help but write. So sometimes it's just sitting in my basement in the quiet, and then just an open session, and just like, let's just see what happens, and let's just see what comes out. How am I feeling? See if I can put that to music. And so I've got fragments upon fragments of stuff that has never gone anywhere, but it at least helps me get it out.
Well, I mentioned this to Righteous Vendetta, but now that they moved to Nashville, it's in your hands now. You live. If that volcano in Yellowstone erupts, don't run out of there. Grab your gear, grab the band, and film a music video right in front of that.
I'll upload it to the cloud right before we die.
Yeah. Hey, that would be you. You would put every black metal band in Norway to shame if you did that.
You were right. That's pretty epic. I'm going to remember that.
Yeah. Good. But it is such. I'd imagine too when you're surrounded by nature, it is also like very isolating as well. I mean, I've talked to people who live like in like the mountains in Colorado or nature in like Arizona or something like that, and they say it is very isolating as well. Has that also fueled the creativity as well?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny that you say we're talking about darkness and isolation. Like recently, it's just like last week, I think Wyoming was the number one state in the country for suicide rates, and so that's not a real fun thing to be number one for. But I think it's because there's not many people here. There's a lot of isolation, so like it can be good and it can be bad. And so it can feel kind of lonely, but honestly, a lot of people here just love the isolation. They like their space. They like to, like, man, going to Colorado. There's so many people in Colorado now that like it feels like you're in line to go see a mountain, like it's an amusement park. It's like get out of my nature. Like, what am I doing here? So yeah, so I think it's that balance of, I don't know, isolation's good and bad, but I think if you're not equipped to handle it, it can be bad. But it can be free and releasing if that's what you need to get away from the day to day.
And going and circling back to Searchlights with this new single, I mean, sonically, was there at all like we talked about the concept that you're addressing, but in terms of the music itself, was there at all like a preconceived idea of what you wanted it to sound like? I do think that people who liked Within My Reach will definitely appreciate this, but I also do see some evolution when you compare that to Ready, Aim to Now. So was there maybe at all like a preconceived idea how you wanted to evolve the actual sound of Bayless?
Hmm. Oh man, there's a couple things in there. I don't know. I think yeah, probably. I'd say we've been called cinematic rock before, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. Like, I love movie scores, so we just put out a album a couple days ago called Unspoken, and it's all just piano and strings to our stuff, and
I
so
heard that. That was
that's like
amazing.
our songs to movie scores. Like, that's it.
And I already know what I'm gonna ask you after that, but go on,
All
continue.
right, awesome,
Yep.
man. You're awesome. So yeah. So I think I've just, and I think that's why we do music videos, because my brain is like, I see in movies, I see in videos, and I want to take what I'm hearing and like let you see it, because we're all visual. So you get the audibly you get to, and then visually experience something at two different things is real powerful. As long as it's done well, I suppose. But so yeah, I think we're like cinematic rock, I suppose. And because what I love, and I think not one for one ratio, but a lot of times you can take our songs and it's real heavy, and then you just mute all like the guitars, bass, drums, and you just keep what I've got in there. It's a completely different song, and it will sound like it's suddenly a really an emotional song. And you're like, there's like heavy guitars playing normally here, and I'm like moved to tears. Like, that's cool. I like that. I like that it has multi dimensions to it.
Definitely. And because you and Vanessa do have your own distinct vocal capabilities, does the music maybe have to like adjust a little bit depending on who's singing at that point? Like, is the guitar like heavier in your vocals and softer during Vanessa, or vice versa in a way?
Good question. Vanessa's always really hard on herself about her voice. I don't know why, and how it's not heavy enough. And I'm like, it's beautiful. Like, it fits so well, but she hears my voice to like these, grungy guitars, and she just wants to basically like thinks it needs to fit. I'm like, no, I love the stark contrast of the beauty against this like heavy music, but she's got a beautiful voice, and it's just so like she's just so good in that upper register, and she can just flip that on real easily in these really down moments, which I can do, but I'm not pretty, so like I don't want that. So I don't want to do falsetto everywhere, but yeah, we have to cater it a little bit as to what's going to sound really nice, and what that melody line is going to do for it, and what register that should hit. If it's like, this is the key it has to be in, and I cannot go that high, it's got to be you, or vice versa. So
Yeah. And now you mentioned that you take inspiration from film scores, which is awesome to hear as a movie soundtrack freak myself. Like, I've listened to soundtracks without even watching the movie, like, all the time.
Ooh.
But, like, I've showed Bayless to a lot of people, and, they've compared you a lot to, and I think it's mainly because of both you and Vanessa's vocal collaborations, but I've heard a lot of people compare you to, like, Lacuna Coil, for example, maybe even like Evanescence's first album and whatnot. But I do see a lot of that cinematic aspect behind it as well. So I'm just curious, do you have any favorite film score or film composer? Like, are you into Two Steps from Hell or Thomas Bergeson or Hans Zimmer, etc.?
I do love Hans Zimmer. I do a lot of his stuff. I mean, I even like John Williams stuff. I know that almost seems like a stereotype, like, well, everybody likes John Williams because he did, Star Wars and all these, you can pick however many, but I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings soundtrack, like Star Wars. There's like, all of us in our band are all very like, we love like that cinematic stuff. And we were talking one day about like, when you hear that moment in that movie, in that the soundtrack comes on, it just like kills you. And so like one of them was like in Star Wars, and which one is it? I think it's and it's when Luke's uncle has died, and he comes back and they're all burnt up, and that music just hits right there, and you're like, it's perfect. It is exactly how that moment feels and sounds, and like it just takes you somewhere else. Same thing with like Lord of the Rings. Like you start the movie and it's just got that first like eerie, and you're just like, oh man, this is just so epic. Like I love it. Things like Harry Potter, same thing. You're just like, I just immediately, it transports you to when you first saw it. And so I think, I don't know if I have a favorite composer per se. I like certain ones that I'm like, ugh, that just speaks to my soul right there, and I can't explain it.
Have you ever heard of Thomas Bergerson or Bergenson? He also
What has he done?
He's also done Two Steps from Hell. He doesn't really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he like a lot of his albums, which you could find on all the platforms, like aren't necessarily for a movie per se. It's just it sounds like a movie soundtrack in a way. He like writes that. Some of the most epic stuff. If you like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack or any of that, like you're doing yourself a disservice as a human.
All right, I'll check him
looking
out.
up his work. You that's your homework after this interview.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned the Unspoken EP as well, because I thought that was incredible as well. And not to discredit the vocals in here, but do you feel that if you were to release like more instrumental stuff like that, if you put out Within My Reach or Ready Aim or even Searchlights as an instrumental form, do you think that could maybe bring a new layer of context, or maybe add to the meaning, or bring something new to the table for Bayless?
Yeah, I think so. It was funny. Zach, our drummer, he's like just came to me, just said, "Hey, like I don't know if you've listened to the Chill Switch Engage thing on YouTube." I
love Chill Switch Engage.
So he's like, I love Chill Switch Engage, and he's like, and I listen to it while I work, and then he's like, I just listen to our music, and I just think, well, the band didn't put that out, and he said, but why didn't we put our own out? And he's like, by we, he's like, I mean you. So I went home and said, I've got a lot of that foundation already there. So I figured, why not? Like I enjoy that. So I had a good time just sitting, and it was like listening to a movie to your own songs, and like relearning your melody lines on piano, and then just, I don't know, just listening. But we're like, you know what? Who knows who might stumble across this. And there's just something about what music speaks to our souls, and like just can't, or words can't. And so I think that is a really good thing that could bring more people in, so that they hear it in one way, and then they hear like a different emotion. Here's the same song, but a different emotion that we all experience. Maybe you are angry and that's okay. Listen to it this way. Maybe you need to be reflective. It's this way. So I thought it was fun. Like I was like, I stop at 6? I mean, I was like, most every song we have has piano in it, probably every song, and strings, probably. So I could probably do it to all of our songs if I really wanted to.
Definitely, and I think you should be commissioned. I think you could play that at many funerals. May I say, you would make.
It's true.
You'd make every funeral so beautiful.
Thank you. Yep. Nobody's ever said that to me before.
Now I know, like, asking people what their influences are is, a real like sort of cliche question. But when I hear your voice in particular, I mean, I could see you singing for like a hard rock band. I could see you sing for like a symphonic band. I could see you sing for a doom band. It almost seems like your voice could be a jack of all trades. Is there a specific vocal influence, or even just a band that has influenced you throughout your career?
Yeah, I get asked this one a little bit. I don't know. I mean, if you've heard of Project 86, he doesn't really sing, but he's got this like tough guy kind of sings, but he's got this, but he's so poetic when he did it. I think I really loved that. And then like Demon Hunter was another one.
Oh, I see a lot of Demon Hunter.
Ryan Clark, like he's got such a just an interesting range. And I don't know that I modeled it after it, but I loved hearing his dynamics, and how he could just this massive scream, and then he's got this lower register, clear, very baritone, and then he like skies way high. But honestly, like I think about this every once in a while. But so growing up, I always did voices and impersonations, and I still do impersonations today. It's so unmetal, but all these accents and all these different things. So I've just been messing with my voice for years, and so when I started singing, it was just kind of that same thing. Like, I know how to manipulate my voice, so I don't want to sound the same every way. So then I was like, I want to be lower, and I've got that. And people are like, you sound like Crash Test Dummies. And I was like, please don't ever say that to me again. But then I've got, like, I want to jump up, and I've got a higher register, but I want to be able to have like a power vocal, but I just wanted to be able to like whatever genre is needed, I wanted to be able to fit that if possible. And it's not going to fit all of them, but then it was like, well, now how about Scream? Like, I'd like to do a Scream. And so like, I think Searchlights, the beginning of Searchlights is kind of it's the evolution of my voice. It starts off real like nice and airy, and then it starts ramping up, and it starts getting until it's just I scream. Like it's just this all encompassing emotion. So that's probably why I do it. I don't know if it's modeling it after somebody. I'm trying to see what my voice can do.
Well, I definitely did see references to like bands like Demon Hunter. Another band that I think it would be a great tour to, the band Red from Nashville.
Oh yeah,
Like I think
they influenced me some.
Yeah. Innocence and Instinct is one of the best albums in my opinion.
It's excellent.
Yeah. But you mentioned that you know how to do voiceovers and impersonations. Being that your music is already cinematic, have you thought about making like voiceover interludes? Because a lot of bands who aren't even as cinematic as you guys have done it, and it worked very well. Like Life of Agony just did that on their last full-length album as well. So have you thought about maybe bringing in some voiceovers or maybe portraying certain characters to add more narratives to Bayless?
Oh man, I mean, I haven't thought of it, but I love the idea. I think it's great. I think that's why we do in the not voiceovers, but like in our music videos, there's always characters in there. There's going to be a story of somebody inside of there that you're going to relate to, or you know exactly what's going on. So it's kind of that type of thing. So we do our own video production too. So like my wife and I have been thinking about, hey, let's do like a short film, and it has nothing to do with music. Like, let's just tell a story. So we're kind of working on that and brainstorming like, how do we just tell a great story? And we put some epic music to it, but we like leave people like with a dang, that was good. So I don't know. I think that's always just been our heartbeat. So I love the idea. I would be completely on board with it.
Do Bayless the musical. I think there's a Broadway musical with your...
You know, I laugh, but you are probably pretty correct. It probably could be. My life, it might be a musical.
You and Vanessa, like just on stage, like you have like just... Please do it. I'll say no more. Just end up doing it. I've been telling the melodic death metal bands from Sweden and those symphonic bands from Sweden to do it, and they've already chickened out of it 1,000 times. So please, balls in your court now.
I'll have to think about it because the goofy side of me is like, I got to get that out of the way, like ridiculousness, and then be serious. So yeah, once I can grow up, I will do that.
Maybe the goofy side and the serious side will add a lot more contrast to it. I mean, there's already contrast in the music between you and Vanessa's voice, so now have the different personalities added as well.
This is very true. This is very true.
Yeah, just throwing that out there.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Bayless the musical. Catch it at Radio City. And the final question I wanted to ask you is circling back to Wyoming, because when I interviewed Righteous Vendetta, we talked upon it a little bit, and we just talked about it, you know, being such an isolated place. But I'd imagine, too, being surrounded by nature and whatnot, it has to influence so much different art. Is there kind of like an active scene in Wyoming that Bayless associates with, and are there any like other underground bands in Wyoming that you'd like to shout out?
Man, there are not a lot of well, I mean, rock bands. There's a lot of, you know, country bands and stuff, but nothing against them. There's not a huge scene here, and now that Righteous Vendetta has left, it's even less. And there's another band that was around, Foreverland, but I don't think they're doing anything right now. So it's kind of a depressing time for the scene in Wyoming. But no, I think, and Wyoming's so big. It's such a big state, so it's not like easily connected. So for as far as that, like, but we've got a lot of influences in like the Christian realm, and so like we've got some of those people in like Colorado and Montana. We've gone up to Montana and done some festivals up there. It's just a long drive, so yeah. So there's that scene. I mean, what's the nice part is like social media and online stuff. You can, as long as you can get it to them, if the algorithm will let you. You know, you can get out there and you can reach just about anybody, no matter where they live. So that's kind of what we've been doing, is just like harvesting stories of like, tell us your story, send us a message. Like, it's not all about us. And like most of our songs aren't about us. They're about stuff that's happened to people in their lives. And like, why aren't like, oh, everybody wants them to tell their story, like our story. So like, let us do it. So tell us what struggles you're going through. Tell us the things, like, let us, you know, we want you to be seen and heard, and that's what we all want in life. So I think that resonates in all cultures, all states, everywhere in the world. So I don't know. I don't know if we have a specific, you know, bent or whatever, but I'd say we are just open to talking with everybody, no matter where we meet them.
Yeah. All scenes and all movements start off with connecting to one or more individuals, so you're already your own scene and movement and
Yeah.
animal altogether. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such a great conversation. Again, Searchlights is a phenomenal single. You all need to check that out.
Thank
Is
you.
there just anything else with Bayless that you would like to promote? Is there a chance maybe y'all could come to New York one day for a show? We would love to have you here.
Oh man, we'd love to come to New York. Yeah. No, look us up on we're on all the platforms like everybody is. But man, tell us your story. If somebody's watching this and they're just like, I don't know who I would talk to. Like we've all been in that place, I think, in life. Take us up on it. You never know. But yeah, we're working on new music and we're trying to do it well. So we're taking our time and not trying to rush things out there. It's a nice part about being independent. So we can take our time. But yeah, look us up, chat with us, share our music. Hopefully it's helpful.
Absolutely. And hopefully this interview can get that message across as well. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Bayless. Check out their new single, Searchlights. If you haven't already, check out their Unspoken EP. And if you've been missing out on them, check out their Ready Aim EP and the Within My Reach full-length album as well. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.